Hi everybody, my name is Courtney Osborne and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, this is a channel where I create my artwork that I do on my main channel, Courtney's Customs, but in this channel, I just kind of work on what I need to work on and I talk about true crime cases. If that's something you're into, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give me a like. Now, I'm not really going to be talking about what I'm doing here on with my tumblers, but if you want to learn more about tumblers, you can head over to my main channel, Courtney's Customs. I'm going to have the link in the description. And let's just dive right into today's case. So today's case is so incredibly gut-wrenching and heartbreaking, and it's an unsolved case, which makes it that much worse. And I cannot imagine the pain and the guilt that's coming from the victims' families every single day, especially her fiance. So I'm going to tell you all about it. Today we are talking about Angela Hammond. Now, Angela Hammond, she was born February 9th, 1971 in Kansas City, Missouri, to her parents, Chris and Marcia. And from everything that I read, Angela had a super normal, loving childhood. And shortly in Angela's life, her parents decided to move to Clinton, Missouri, which is about 80 miles south of Kansas City, Missouri. And they decided to make that move to be closer to Marcia's parents. Shortly after moving, Chris and Marcia would become pregnant and they would bring a beautiful baby boy into the world, making Angela a big sister. From everything that I read about Angela, she was extremely well liked, very popular in school. She was like that very typical, like, lights up a room when she walks in kind of girl. She was absolutely beautiful. She was very witty, very smart. And I also read that she was very driven and people said she was destined to do great things in life. When Angela was 19, she met an 18-year-old boy named Rob Schaefer, and Rob was also the very popular high school student. He was a star football athlete. He was very well liked. So the two got along really, really well, and they began dating. So in January of 1991, Angela found out that she was pregnant, and Rob was ecstatic. He was so excited, and he very quickly popped the question, and Angela said yes. Now, Rob's goal was to join the military, but until then, he worked odd jobs, and they both worked really hard to try to prepare for their first baby. While Rob was working these odd jobs, Angela attended Central Missouri State University during the day, and then in the evenings, she worked as a bank teller. They rented a home together, and I mean, you know how it is. You're a really young couple. Money is already tight, so they are really just trying to work hard and focus on the baby that is on the way. So on April 4th, 1991, Rob and Angela attend a barbecue together at Angela's mother's home. Now, at this point, Angela's parents, they actually divorced. They were still, you know, it was a calm, friendly type of divorce. Like, there was no, like, fighting or anything crazy involved. It was a very civil divorce. So they go to the barbecue, and around 9 o'clock that evening, Rob had to leave the barbecue and go back to his parents' house because he had agreed to babysit his little brother. I guess maybe his parents wanted to go out for the evening or something. So he said, like, yeah, it's okay. I'll babysit the little brother. And Angela, she decided she wanted to catch up with an old friend. So she, you know, told Rob, I'll see you later. Tell your family I said hi kind of thing. And I'll see you tonight. So Angela went and picked up her best friend, and I guess they just kind of hung out. They drove around, just catching up. You know how it is. And at around 11:15 that night, Angela dropped off her best friend and stopped at a payphone to call Rob. The payphone was Angela's only option, so she stopped at a payphone that was only about 7 or 8 blocks away from their home. I guess she just wanted to stop and give Rob a call, you know, just an update like, hey, it was a great evening. I am extremely tired. I just want to go home and like take a bath and put my feet up. You know, she's pregnant. At this point, she's 4 months pregnant. So I remember being 4 months pregnant and just wanting to sleep and eat and soak in the bath and like just relax. So she spoke on the phone with Rob for quite a while. I guess they just kind of got caught up in chatting. So about 30 minutes into their conversation, a truck pulled into the parking lot that Angela was in with the payphone and was just kind of like aimlessly driving around. So this kind of was raising some red flags for Angela. And she seems very, very smart because she actually described the truck to Rob while she was on the phone with him. She said, you know, it was an older Ford F-150. It was a green colored truck. And as she's describing the truck to Rob, it pulls out of the parking lot and drives away. So they talked about, like, okay, like, that was really weird, but they didn't think anything of it. And then just a few moments later, this truck returns. But this time it parked in, like, an actual parking spot. So then this man gets out of the truck and he goes over to the empty phone booth that was beside Angela. But, like, this is the early 90s. It's 1991. Everybody was using payphones. So, like, it wasn't, like, super alarming, just a little uncomfortable. Very shortly after getting into the phone booth, though, the man walks out of the phone booth, and Angela thinks, you know, maybe the phone booth that he was in wasn't working, so she very politely asks him, while she's still on the phone with Rob, if he needs to use the payphone. He replies no, and then he gets out a flashlight and he starts looking around as if, like, he lost something and he was looking for it. Because remember, it's like 11:45 at night at this point, so of course it's going to be really dark. So he's out looking around for something with his flashlight. At this point, both Rob and Angela start to feel a little uneasy about the situation. So Angela, again, very smart, decides to describe what this man looks like to her fiancé, Rob. She described him as a dirty, bearded man, and she got a little more, like, a better look at the truck. So she says, you know, it is a green Ford F-150, an older model. And on the back glass of the truck, there was, like, this mural of a fish jumping out of the water. So very distinct description that she was able to give Rob. And then all of a sudden, Rob hears this blood-curdling scream coming from the other line, which was Angela. And then he hears the man say, "I didn't need to use the phone anyway." The phone went dead, and of course, Rob knows exactly where Angela is. He knows where the payphone is that she was calling from, so he bolts to his car, gets in it, and flies down the road to get to where Angela is. As he's driving down the road, just 7 blocks away, getting to this payphone, he sees this truck coming up on him, and it is a green, older Ford F-150 looking exactly like what Angela described. And as it gets closer, he sees there is a woman in the truck struggling, and as he passes the car, he hears Angela screaming, "Robbie, Robbie!" I cannot, just full body chills. I cannot imagine. So Robbie immediately pulls a U-turn in his car, and for about a couple of miles, he's able to chase this truck, but then he takes a very sharp right turn to continue chasing this truck, and unfortunately, the transmission in Rob's car failed, and he was stranded in the middle of the road, and the only thing he could do was watch this truck drive away with this creepy man who had just abducted his fiancée. So in an absolute panic, he gets out of his car. He tries to run down the road to chase down this truck, but he quickly realizes that that is not going to work, so he begins to run the other way to get towards the city. Thankfully, another person that was driving down the road sees Rob. He flags him down, and he gets into this car and asks the driver to please take him directly to the police station. Now, Clinton, around this time, Clinton, Missouri, was this very small, quiet town. So when Rob comes bursting into the police station with this crazy story that almost kind of sounds a little like a movie, the police weren't really quite sure what to think about this story, but they did take Rob in, they took his statement, and they did launch a full police search for this man in hopes to find Angela. They also draw up a composite sketch of the man that Rob described based on Angela's description. And Rob described him as a white man. He was wearing a baseball hat. He had a beard and a mustache and glasses. He was wearing bib overalls, and he was just dirty. But the composite sketch that the police put out into the public looked absolutely nothing like the man that Rob described. No baseball hat, no facial hair at all. And when asked about this, the police claimed that they thought that the man could have been wearing a fake beard and mustache, and so they put a composite sketch out to the public, not looking anything like Rob described. And they didn't release any additional composite sketches with a man with glasses and facial hair. He also went further in describing the truck that he saw with Angela in it. He described it as an older model, 1960s or 1970s, green Ford with some rust and like I said, the decal of a fish jumping out of the water at the back window. Now, Rob was also able to see a couple letters from the license plate. He remembers seeing an X and a Y, but there was so much rust covering the rest of it, he couldn't make out anything else. So, of course, like in all of these cases where a spouse is missing, the other spouse becomes the main suspect at first, but Rob takes and passes a polygraph test with flying colors, and they were also able to find Rob's car broken down in the middle of the road exactly like he said it was, and they also found Angela's car in the parking lot by the payphone where Rob said it would be. So the Clinton police then notify Angela's parents, which I cannot imagine just the horror of just being a parent and getting that phone call from a police station saying your daughter has been abducted and we're doing everything that we can to find her, but as of right now, we don't have any leads. Of course, the police kind of question Angela's parents about Rob, but both of her parents were real quick to shut that down. They said Rob was absolutely amazing. They loved him. They had absolutely no suspicion at all that he would be behind any of this. So thankfully, Rob is then cleared of any involvement in the case. And witnesses also came forward saying that they too saw this green truck with a woman screaming inside. So the Clinton police quickly discovered that they were not equipped for something like this, so they did have state police and the FBI assist in the investigation. So during the investigation, of course, rumors are flying, and one of the rumors was that the person that might have done this was Angela's ex-boyfriend, Bill Barker. Now, in the rumor, they said that they think Bill Barker, Angela's ex-boyfriend, was involved in this because Angela's baby actually belonged to her ex-boyfriend and not Rob. Like, what the hell? Like, there's a missing woman and you're gonna start rumors like this. I'm not exactly sure who started it, but of course, small town rumors, like, they just freaking go together, I guess. Angela's fiance, Rob, and Angela's ex-boyfriend, Bill, quickly denied these rumors, and they agree that yes, Angela's baby is her fiance, Rob's. Come on, people. Bill also took a polygraph test and he passed, and there was absolutely no evidence leading to Bill being involved in this in any way, shape, or form. So, like I said, this is a very small town, very tight-knit community, so Angela's disappearance really hit the community hard. There were volunteers searching every day, high and low, for Angela, and they just came up with nothing. So the Missouri State Police entered into their database the description of the truck and came up with 1,500 possible vehicles listed in the database. Other officers from different jurisdictions came to help. Everybody was taking this very, very seriously, as they should. So just a couple of months before Angela's abduction, there were also 2 other abductions and, unfortunately, murders in the area. In January of 1991, Trudy Darby was working in a convenience store, and that's where she vanished. The store was robbed, and unfortunately, Trudy's body was found in a nearby river. She had been shot in the head twice with a shotgun, and it would actually be her half-brothers, Jesse Rush and Marvin Cheney, that were later convicted of the robbery, the rape, and the murder of Trudy Darby. Then, just a month later, in February of 1991, another woman was abducted from a convenience store, and her name was Cheryl Ann Kinney. She vanished and was never found. Then in April of 1991 is when Angela Hammond was abducted. Police would kind of wonder if these cases would be related to each other, but no evidence was ever found to confirm this. Despite some little leads that would come here and there and all of the really hard work in the investigation, police were not ever able to find anything about what happened to Angela. One theory involving Angela's case is that it was a case of mistaken identity. So there was a police informant that I guess helped with a major drug bust, and theory around this states that the abductor was actually going after this police informant's daughter, who was also named Angela, who looked a lot like Angela Hammond. This is a really interesting theory because a note was also found regarding this case, and it is one of those like cut and paste notes where it looks like the words or the letters were just cut and glued like from a magazine onto a piece of paper. I'm going to put a picture up here of the note so you guys can see it. And it says, "Hello, we know who you are. People like you deserve what you get. We know where your foxy daughter is at. She will see us soon. Tell," redacted, "she has our deepest sympathy in her future loss. Goodbye." Now, the pieces that are redacted where it says NO, that is actually standing for number, and the piece that is redacted is the police informant's like badge number. And then where it says tell redacted, we are sorry for her future loss. That redacted piece is actually the police informant's wife's name. So what they're saying is like, hello, police number, blah, blah, blah. We know where your daughter is. Tell your wife her name. We're sorry for her future loss. Goodbye. And all of this redacted information is correct. It was the correct police informant's number. The wife's name was correct, and the date stamped on the letter is the same date that Angela Hammond was abducted. So, that is, ugh. And that just that's what's been sticking to me, is that if this is a case of mistaken identity, if she was just like kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time and they found her and they thought it was this police informant's daughter, Angela, oh my God. And let's not forget, Angela Hammond was also 4 months pregnant when this happened. And circling back to this theory about the mistaken identity, the police informant and his daughter Angela were also living in Clinton at this time. So even though that doesn't really help us figure out who did it and what exactly happened to Angela, that theory to me just seems right, as at least a motive. And the latest updates about this case that I have read is that the police actually received an anonymous phone call from somebody who stated they had a lot of information about this case. Specifically, they stated details about this letter. This was all said in a voicemail because the call was not picked up. So they can't get back in touch with this person, and they're really hoping this person decides to call back. But the fact of the matter is, this case still remains unsolved to this day. And I'm also going to throw up a picture here of Angela around the time she was abducted, plus what police have been able to create a photo of her aged, of what she would look like if she is still alive today. Like I said in the beginning, I cannot imagine the grief and the pain that Angela's family is going through, especially her fiancé that sat there in his car when he was so close to maybe helping Angela and his car broke down and he watched her abductor get away with her. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you have any theories, if you have heard any more updates about this case, and if you have any information whatsoever, please call the Clinton Police Department at 660-885-5561.